between Miami Dade College, uh, Maricopa Community Colleges, and Houston City College. Why these three colleges? Because these were the first three colleges in the nation to develop AI degrees. And from associate to bachelor's, really bringing AI education at the forefront of what community colleges can offer, and to do it in a meaningful way that our students can actually get jobs to either applied AI or brand new jobs that are being created as we speak on AI. So the National Applied AI Consortium vision and goal is really to democratize AI education by really connecting community colleges as the most affordable education providers in the nation with the leading companies in artificial intelligence that are committed to support AI education. So we are serving as the bridge to connect with training, resources, and mentorship to community colleges, but definitely led by what's happening in AI in partnership with the leading companies today in artificial intelligence. Who are those companies that we're working with? This is the list of our current industry partners that continues expanding with new announcements coming next month in a couple of weeks. So we work with not only to throw logos in here, but really meaningfully connecting with companies like Microsoft, Intel, AWS, and Google on training specific for faculty on how to teach AI. And this comes with not only training, but also resources and opportunities, content, curriculum that you don't have to reinvent if you want to incorporate AI courses or modules inside your programs. We also have OpenAI that has an OpenAI Academy with a bunch of opportunities that anyone can access, even your students. Then Lenovo comes more on the manufacturing side with equipment, and they have strong recommendations for AI labs that can be built and created at every institution. And then we have Cisco, CompTIA more on the certification side. CompTIA just released, for example, Security AI Plus that combines both cybersecurity with AI. And Cisco has what we have known for many years in the community college environment with a Cisco Networking Academy that they are releasing now content on AI and data science. So all these companies are interested in supporting higher education to teach AI, but universities are not reacting as quickly as community colleges. So they see a lot of value through the consortium on reaching community colleges, and this is combined what we have been able to do in the last year and a half, over 10,000 hours of AI training available for free to community college faculty. There is also the number of events that we put together with them, not only from a training perspective, but many times it's info sessions or webinars to explain what is the latest, what are the opportunities that are available for free. Like Google creating the AI accelerator for higher education, but specifically to support community colleges to access all the Google certificates at no cost. Again, like there is a cost for anyone else. Community colleges can access those at no cost. And also adding Gemini Pro for your students and adding Notebook LM for your faculty to teach with this latest tool. So this goes beyond just the AI curriculum that we connect, but also other opportunities and tools that come at no cost to community college faculty through our collaboration. So let me expand on how to access all this information. But first, what are the outcomes that we have had? We launched in October of 2024, so barely a year and a half ago. And we have already trained faculty or staff actually as well from over 350 community colleges in the nation. So this speaks about, yes, community colleges are ready. You are ready to incorporate AI. And sometimes it's about creating brand new programs, associate degrees or bachelor's or even certificates in AI. But many times it's about incorporating AI courses or content inside existing programs like cybersecurity. So overall, we have had over 2,000 faculty and staff trained in many different tools and certifications and content. And we have a very active engagement, especially through email communication that we have through our website that anyone can subscribe to stay connected with what's happening. And we are every month adding new content and new opportunity, and the only way to catch up is really by being subscribed to our newsletter. We have representation from almost every state. We're only missing Alaska and Vermont, if any of you is from those states. But we know that there is these opportunities applied to everyone in the nation. And we have a special program specific to support community colleges through mentorship, because you can have the resources that I'm going to expand next. You can have the training, but as an institution, we realize that the most value comes from support on how to connect everything and how to launch your program in AI. So this mentorship is very specific for AI degrees, those community colleges that want to teach AI with an AI degree that leads to jobs in AI in your area. We have this program to help you connect everything from an administration and faculty perspective, not only with the training available, but the full support. How do you get funding to launch your program? How do you recruit the students in AI based on best practices and experiences? How do you bring this new curriculum that most of the time you don't have books available, and you have to really much create your syllabus from scratch, and you have to create an engaging course. So we have all the elements from previous experiences that we are sharing through this mentorship program. And overall, we have reached over 50,000 students from all the colleges that we're supporting. And our goal is not to reach the students by ourselves. We don't do that. Our goal is to help you, to help community colleges get the right AI courses and programs so you can reach the students. Couple of examples from the mentorship program. The first two community colleges on this program were DMAC and Valencia College. Both of them in different stages, but they had really strong faculty engagement that they were really eager to upskill in AI to be able to teach this content to their students. So we took those faculty and went through accelerated training, but also we worked with their administrators to help them get on track wherever their journey. DMAC was more advanced on the approval process, and they were able to launch their associate degree in the fall of 2025. And with that, also a certificate, 18-hour certificate, and they launched 6 courses right there that semester. And in the first semester, 135 students. So this is an example that only in 1 year, right after they finished the mentorship, they were ready to launch and get the students on track. Valencia College went for the certificate route. They already had a programming degree, and it was easier for them to incorporate AI into that degree. And that's their focus, is really the AI addition into software development and where that trajectory is going and the evolution of software development with AI. And right there, a year later, after the fall of 2025, finishing the mentorship, in only 2 AI courses, 151 students. This is impressive. And that's what we see now with the second cohort of mentorship that we're doing this year. We're going to see the results next academic year, but it's really very helpful to the institution to accelerate the implementation of AI courses. So going back to the resources that we offer, did I mention that they're free? Like everything that has been created nationally, available for free, from courses, syllabus, Canvas shells, you name it, program sheets, advisor sheets, like everything available to help those community colleges that are starting to access the content for free. And the resource hub is available on our website. So any community college faculty or administrator in the nation with an EDU account, that's the only thing that you need to set up your account, and automatically you have access to a resource hub that looks like exactly like my screenshot right here. And you can filter, what are you looking for? Introduction to AI courses, or you are looking for more machine learning, like are you looking for more on the data science component? It doesn't matter, like there is always a component there. And the latest that we are releasing is Intel's curriculum. Intel developed the AI for Workforce curriculum that counts with over 10 courses already developed that you can take. You can take them as they are, or you can take them by modules to incorporate into your existing courses. That's really the bread and butter that most community colleges are using. But you had to create an agreement with Intel, and there is limited capacity into how many colleges Intel could support. So they came through the consortium, and now for the first time ever, Intel's courses are available through our resource hub, and you don't need an agreement with Intel. You go through the consortium to access the content, and it's available there, right there for free, no cost. Everything available for community colleges, thanks to the support of National Science Foundation to create this resource hub for you guys. Outside of the resource hub, or one of the most, actually the most relevant reports that we have created that is inside the resource hub, is the knowledge and skills framework for an applied AI degree. Why this is so important? Because when you're launching an AI degree and you don't have maybe the internal expertise, like faculty are still going through an upskilling process, you don't have a pure AI faculty to come and define and help on those programs. We created this knowledge and skills framework to help every single community college in the nation to understand, like, what are the knowledge and skills that industry is looking for. So who created this report? It was not the consortium, it was actually the business industry leadership team from the consortium. These are AI experts from leading companies from all sizes, all the way from established companies, AWS, Microsoft, Lenovo, Intel, to hiring managers, to mid-sized company, to even startups that are coming with AI. And these are 22 AI professionals that know when they're hiring on AI and they're thinking on what can I hire from a 2-year degree in a community college, they're very intentional about the 2-year degree. What are the skills that I would like to see? And this is a framework that supports any community college in the nation. If you don't have that local advisory committee on AI yet, or you don't have that local guidance on what are the knowledge and skills that you should be teaching for, this is available for free. And this is available for anyone to come and leverage and use it as you consider as you need based on your local needs. So now coming to faculty training. Every faculty training that we have offered so far has been free, no cost. We're covering the cost of the train the trainer model to make sure that faculty is able to learn, to upskill themselves, and then bring this to their students. And that's why our focus is not on students. Our focus is on faculty. Our focus is to help them understand the content, to get certified, to get all the tools that they need to be able to teach AI. And we most of our training is in collaboration with these leading companies. And you see here what is the upcoming training that we have right now. We have training with Microsoft, we have training with Google, we have training with EC Council that is about to be announced based on the new certifications that EC Council released last month about artificial intelligence. So you see how great opportunity, the latest from EC Council on AI, and then the training comes right after for anyone to really be able to train for those certifications and be able to bring that knowledge back to their students. Another one that is not listed here is CompTIA, that they released new certificates on AI Essentials and Prompting Essentials, and we released those that training for free for high school teachers because it's at a lower level. But we're working with them to release training for the Security AI Plus, and that's going to come soon as well to make sure that we can offer that train the trainer model for any community college faculty to get the latest certification from CompTIA and to consider if you want to bring that to your students. So, and whenever a training is connected with a certification, specific certification like Azure AI Fundamentals, that's from Microsoft AI 900, we cover the cost of the exam. So you don't have to pay, faculty don't have to pay, not for the training, but not for the certification exam either. And the Google Generative AI Leader example is something that we have been actively doing, and the results are impressive, like how many faculty are getting that certification. So additionally, similar to NCyTE, we have a community of practice and we convene quarterly to have more this is not a training section. This is more speaker presentations, space for questions and answers, space for sharing what works, what doesn't work. We have had amazing conversations about what is the math that you need for AI? What are the prerequisites that you need to teach machine learning? And topics like do we need to create a brand new department at a community college to teach AI? Like these are the relevant topics that really affect anyone, any community college to come and learn from each other. And there is a lot of resource sharing, there is a lot of opportunity to learn from each other. And those the trainings, the events, the community of practice sessions, they're all available through our websites on the events tab. You see all the events that are coming. And then one key event that we host every year is really our national summit, where this is the only time that we meet in person. And in this, we just hosted the most recent was actually last month. We did it at Miami Dade College, and we had over 500 people coming from all over the nation. We didn't have more because we didn't have a bigger room, but we had from over 100 speakers from over 40 sessions, and we had industry representation sharing like how they're connecting with community colleges. We have the leaders from IBM, Cisco, Intel, Lenovo, AWS, OpenAI, like you name it. Everyone was here from an industry representing. We had NSF also sharing their vision for AI and their support to community colleges to build AI programs. And we're going to replicate that experience in October in Chandler Gilbert Community College in Arizona. And with our support, not only a call for you to know like this is the place to be to meet in person if you want to go for artificial intelligence education, but also that we offer stipends for faculty to attend. We want to make it easier. So we're offering $1,000 for faculty that cannot afford making it to this event. We have an application process that we're about to announce, and faculty can really apply for the stipend and get $1,000 on your side to make it to this conference. So we are super excited for all the resources. As you see, all the training, education is happening for free, events that connect you with industry leaders, but also the opportunity to attend in person with a stipend for those that cannot afford it. And with that, really, I wanted to have more of an introduction of the consortium, but also a space for questions and conversation if there is any. So I'm going to stop sharing now and happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you, Antonio. If there's any questions, you can just unmute and ask the question, or you can put it in the chat. And I'll start with a question. You mentioned the faculty and staff training. Is that at a face-to-face or is that virtual training?
That's a great question because I will say that not like almost everything that we offer is online because we're serving faculty from all over the nation. And pretty much during the whole year where all the training is happening online, except the moment that we meet in person for that national summit, we also include training during the summit for those that prefer in-person training. We bring all the trainers. We did it last month with Google teaching in person the generative AI leader certification, Microsoft teaching the AI 900 certification, and Intel doing training on how to use their curriculum in your classroom. Those trainings had more people than all the other sessions that we had. So that's how popular these training sessions are in person. But again, that's the only time of the year that we do training in person. Everything else is online because we want to make it easy. We don't want to add extra cost of travel. We want to just to make it as simple as possible for all time zones. Faculty from everywhere can actually join the training, no cost, and learn as quickly as possible.
Okay, great. There's a question in chat. Where is this resource hub located?
So the resource hub is on the website, and I saw that Stephen, you already shared the link. So the specific link to the resource hub can be found on the website, but here it is on the chat. And I can share my screen again and
sure, go ahead.
How that looks, but really this is very simple. Everything is available here. You can even filter without registering, and you can actually like, hey, you want to see everything about introduction to AI. We have content from Carnegie Mellon University developed specifically for community colleges. We have what I mentioned from Intel. This is introduction to AI from Intel. You don't need an agreement with Intel. You can access it right here. You have content from Maricopa Community College and Miami Dade College. Like the first two courses on AI that were created at a community college, these were these courses. And you can use it as a syllabus, as a curriculum or course outline. You can download it as it is. If you want to check Canvas shell, like something ready to teach, that I can just download and use it. You have machine learning, NLP, computer vision, ethics, all this content available, just like very easy, download and use it as it is. Or if you want actually more of the KSA analysis, like that's the report that I just mentioned that is available with all the input from industry, what are the knowledge and skills required in an applied AI associate degree. Now, let's say you want to access it. If you click right now and it says, oh, hey, sorry, like you want the resource, you have to either sign in or register. What do you need to sign in or register? Just an EDU account. As soon as you register and log in, very simple. You have access to the resource and you can download it. So very easy to use. Anyone with an EDU account can use it. So pretty much, I assume everyone on this call, and no cost, which is probably like the craziest piece. It's like this is all available at no cost, and our role is to make sure that you have access to these materials and really hopefully to hear back from you. It's like, hey, how are you doing with this content? And maybe you are creating content. Let's say AI in cybersecurity, and you want to share nationally. This is a resource to share with anyone that wants to use your resources. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, they said it did. It was, and so another thought I had was around is that curriculum aligned with the CAE AI program of studies, KUs, or have you done any work in that area?
Which curriculum are you referring to?
The knowledge units in the
No, yeah, I'm talking about the resource hub. Are you referring about a specific content in the
yeah,
resource hub?
like your associate's degree that you had on there. That is
Yeah.
that.
So 100% connected with the latest KUs announced recently by the National Center of Academic Excellence. For those institutions, I assume most of you on this call that already have an associate degree in cybersecurity, if you want to go for the program of study in AI cyber, you can 100% use our intro to AI courses, Python, you can use machine learning. All those are even the ethics course, those are requirements on that KU's, on the KU's component of the new program of study. What we don't have specifically, that's what I was asking, we don't have right now the course that connects both cybersecurity and AI, like the course that really makes it as this is the application of AI inside cybersecurity. We don't have that one. What we have is the pure AI, introduction to AI, introduction to machine learning, ethics on AI, Python that is actually required, even the math component that you need for AI, those courses are available already.
It's fantastic. So we have any other questions?
Yeah, this is Caroline Bedward. I wonder, could you talk about the outcome, like how like I noticed that you show the certification. Do you help the student each course to take the certification or just giving credit to take it? And then also, could you talk about, some of the job that the student end up getting?
Yes, great questions, and basically multiple ways to answer. Let me start by certification. First question. I know I can answer from what we are doing at Miami Dade College because that's what I work. At the consortium, our role is to help upskill faculty. When I say upskilling faculty, is to give you access to training, to give you the exposure, to give you the resources. That's what you have seen. And some of those training are focused on certification training, like I mentioned AI 900 from Microsoft, Google AI, Generative AI Leader, AWS AI Practitioner. Now we're launching with EC Council and CompTIA. Those are specific certifications that we use to train faculty. But how those faculty use those certifications in their courses really depend on each faculty and institution. So that's as a consortium. Now, as Miami Dade College, my faculty are trained with all those resources, and at the end, they decide which one they want to use on their classes. And we have, for example, like Introduction to AI, we don't use any certification on that one because it's more like a foundational course that we want to have every student ready. But when we start getting into more advanced courses, sometimes faculty that come from a cloud computing background, they start using the AWS AI practitioner because they have students that come from the cloud practitioner certification solutions architect, and they have a transition into AI in the cloud. Other times we go more into the Azure side, depending on, again, the background of the students or the background of the faculty. Talking about Google, what we do with every single student that registers at Miami Dade College in an AI course, not as part of the course, but as an extra resource, we give them access to Coursera for free so they can complete the brand new Google AI Professional Certificate. And that's a certificate to help mostly working professionals to understand how to use AI. So my faculty are not teaching the content from Google, available on Coursera, but as a supplement, the students are learning AI in the classroom and they automatically can go by themselves in their own time, complete that certificate, and that expands their knowledge on how to apply AI. And our completion rate is impressive of that certificate. And it's self-learning, not attached to a grade on the class, but the students love to have a credential from Google. So it really depends, again, on the faculty, on the program, on the students, but we see value every time that we add a certification. We know that we're helping the students get a better opportunity to land a job because it's not about a community college helped me get these skills. It's more that a community college helped me get this credential plus the skills. And the credentials sometimes help more on a resume than the skills because anyone can claim skills, but a certification is proof of knowledge. So I hope that answered your question from the certification perspective. We don't mandate any. Our job is to help you get as much training as possible so then you as a faculty can decide which one makes more sense for your class. Now let's go to the second portion of your question, which is what are the jobs? Are the students actually getting jobs? And there was a recent LinkedIn. So when we started working on this 4 years ago, actually 5 years ago, this is before ChatGPT. Like we were dreaming on a future that anyone has to learn AI, who's gonna train, who's gonna upskill people. We can do it, and we see a future that community colleges can be the pathway for new jobs that didn't exist at that time, like AI technician, machine learning specialist. And then ChatGPT happened. I promise we didn't know about ChatGPT. But when ChatGPT happened, it was an acceleration that our programs were ready. And that's why, at least in Miami Dade College, Maricopa, and Houston, we're serving thousands of students based on we were ready by the time that this technology came out. Not because we knew that it was coming, but we knew that we had to train in a different way than universities. And we needed to do a lot of upskilling, and that's what really happened in our programs. Most of the students in my program, 2 out of 3, are over 26 years old. That means that they're already working. 30% of my students, or 35% of the students in my program at Miami Dade College, are above 41 years old. That has never happened. Not only the 26 and above. Now we're talking about 41 and above. They're majority. They're 1/3. Of course, they have careers already. They're either looking for integration of AI into what they do, or completely changing careers, or creating a startup or a new company, or they're already owners of a company and they want to change their companies. So I'm not going to touch the 41 and older. They're 1/3. They already have a pathway and they're quickly to bring their previous experience with AI. So if I focus on the others, like let's say 29 and younger, like that's the generation that is trying to figure out they're listening to what's happening. Entry-level positions are disappearing. You graduate from college, and what are the jobs available? So they see that if they come with AI skills, they're going to be better prepared. And if they have an AI degree, even better. So from that population, I see already graduates from my programs getting into jobs that didn't exist before. And I'm not even talking about the prompt engineer. Like that was the first job that was created. Like, no, like my program is not about, like AI programs are not about prompting. Our programs is to understand machine learning, computer vision, NLP, to give you practical AI skills. And I already, like LinkedIn came out with an article that I'm going to share in the chat later, but they started defining what are those new jobs. And automatically, when I saw that article, I started looking into, hey, how many students we have on those jobs already? Boom, automatically. One of them is AI data annotator, brand new role that didn't exist. My graduates are already getting those jobs. And actually, before graduating from the program. The AI content creators, like understanding the technology, not from a prompting perspective, but more for creating with AI, already happening. The machine learning specialist / technician, already happening. And then a lot of software developers that already knows how to bring AI. The role is still software developer, but the incorporation of AI skills, that's where my students are already landing those jobs. And when I say my students, I'm also representing like Houston City College, Maricopa Community Colleges. They were the first to do associate ambassadors as well. So we see those results on 3 different regions on the nation, not because we have local partners that are more advanced than anyone. No, this happens across the nation and it is only expanding. That's what we see, and we can validate that community colleges are well positioned to do this on every single community in the nation. We just need to have the faculty training and the college supporting to offer a really strong AI program that leads to those jobs.
Okay, that's good information. Going from what you're talking about there, here in Houston, there's been a number of companies that are software developers that are laying off because they're taking AI is kind of taking away the jobs. So how is that? Are you all tracking how that is? And I just came back from this Cyber Ed 2026 conference, and they were talking about how computer science programs are going to be going away potentially because of AI. And I noticed that Valencia kind of addressed that with their AI and software certification. It makes a lot of sense. So anyway, could you speak a little bit about that, Antonio?
So the question is not if AI is going to transform those industries. That's already happening. The question is how higher education is going to adapt for the challenge to have our students ready for those opportunities. And I'm presenting nationally everywhere, and I'm presenting with universities. And what I'm hearing from universities, they're very protective in computer science into, oh, we have been doing this for years, like you don't touch this. And yeah, we can touch on AI, but there is a lot of protection on the computer science element that I see community colleges transforming. I see community college faculty eager to learn, like, how can I bring AI to my courses? And it's not about thinking about egos and protection. It's more about thinking, how can I help my student get a job when they graduate? And the reality, those students they're 100% going to get a job if they know how to implement AI. But if they come and they graduate and they don't have these future skills and these present skills on how to incorporate AI, and it's not about vibe coding, or it's not about, oh, AI can do the coding for you. Actually, if you don't know coding, you don't know if AI is doing the right thing. So it's about learning coding, but learning how to work with AI. Those are the skills that is going to get them jobs. So when I'm seeing nationally everything that is happening that is real about, yes, AI is going to continue disrupting, AI is going to continue changing jobs, and AI is going to continue creating new jobs. I'm concerned for those that are not teaching with AI and those that are not teaching AI incorporated into different fields, like even cybersecurity. And we see that with the new NCyTE designation. And that's why I created the consortium, to really be able to help any community college faculty that wants to learn and upskill themselves to then bring this to their students. That's the purpose. This is available for free. This is available for you to be able to learn and bring it down to their students. Are we tracking the numbers of what's happening nationally? No. We're still an initiative focused on, with funding from NSF and limited funding to be able to support community colleges. We don't have the tracking capabilities of doing that, but we see what's happening, and we see the results of the colleges that are doing it and are doing it right are getting the students with jobs. So that's the promise. Like, we can become the workforce engine of the nation because we are nimble, and our faculty can switch, and our faculty can learn and upskill, and we can create the workforce of the future for this nation through community colleges even faster than universities.
That sounds great. I think that's the right way to go. Any other questions out there? One of are any of these modules on Clark, or do you work with Clark or not?
Everything that we have is available on our resource hub. We
Yeah,
don't have
okay.
cybersecurity content. Again, like we're very open and willing to collaborate with NCyTE on creating that content and make it available everywhere. But we don't have that cybersecurity content. And the moment that we do, of course, we will share with Clark.
Sure. Okay. Just came up. I just wondered that. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Let me bring up the slides here. Okay, well, thanks, Anthony. This has been a great, and very informative. I think hopefully you'll get more signups on the website. I'm going to sign up. I didn't. I guess I thought I had signed up for this, but I haven't. So I'm going to sign up as soon as I get off this session. So if you all can use the QR code, and we have a survey, this helps us understand how well the monthly meeting presentations are going, also ideas about what you would like to see in the future. And we take that information in as we develop the schedule for the year. Anyway, that's the QR code. And if there's anything else that anybody else have any final questions or comments before we sign off today? Okay. Then I'm going to stop the share. Thank you again, and have a good weekend, everyone.
Very interesting, Tony. Great presentation.
Thank you. Bye.